Sun City Hotel is now one of 5 the Yahweh's own in Dade, part of a $20 million property portfolio.
I'd like to introduce myself to you. My name is Yahweh ben Yahweh. So I am God, the Son of God.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
So you've got to love me. If you don't love me, you are a lying hypocrite. I'm here to set you free. Yes, I'm greater than Solomon.
Shame. It doesn't work. We're black. Look, the skin color, same as mine. Why? Why did y'all do it? Is it worth it now? Are you happy?
The Yahweh's leader, who claims to be the son of God, Yahweh ben Yahweh, was arrested by the FBI in New Orleans, where he was on a speaking tour.
I can speak a little Japanese. Want to hear me say something? How many want to hear me speak a little Japanese right quick? Okay. All right. Toyota, Nissan, Sony.
So Yahweh ben Yahweh was the leader of the nation of Yahweh. His ex-members, many of them, call it a cult. The thing is, not only is he accused of being a cult leader, but ex-members also accuse him of masterminding at least 14 murders, including a beheading. But other people who are still loyal to him, they see him more as a victim of a setup by the government. They basically say that he was becoming too popular, and so he was framed, and that he actually did good things for the community, which is true. Like, he created grocery stores and schools and community services in a community that didn't have those things. At its peak, it had tens of thousands of members, and they had amassed a fortune, according to the Miami Herald, of over $100 million, mostly in real estate. In 1980, the group buys a building and they convert it into what they call the Temple of Love. But really, people who left there called it the Temple of Fear. There is a story that an ex-member tells about these weird forced circumcisions that occurred that Yahweh ben Yahweh himself performed. He had what he called his circle of 10, and these were like 10 bodyguards that surrounded him. They also had these 6-foot wooden staffs and steel machetes. I'm gonna read you the quote. Okay. At this time, he wasn't called Yahweh ben Yahweh. By the way, he was called Ak Moshe. He wanted to see who was circumcised and who was not. For those who were not, he squatted in front of them and did the deed to them himself, one by one. One of the rules they had was they had to make money, right? Bring in money to the group, and that was a $10 daily minimum. If they failed, however, they would have to go to somewhere known as the Room of Understanding. A former member describes the Room of Understanding. He says, basically, you're on a concrete floor with a thin layer of carpet. You were made to kneel down on your knees and keep your back straight for 4 or 5 hours. In that room, there were also guards with sticks that made sure you stayed like you were supposed to. The other thing that Yahweh would do is he would basically take the men's wives away from them.
He even regulated our sex life because he taught something called brothers class. He told the brothers the only time you should want to have sex with a woman is if you're trying to make a baby. We go weeks and months without having sex. In hindsight, I found out that he basically wanted my wife. I stayed a full-time member with the Yahwehs because I believed in it. I believed, everything was good.
First, he would send the men to start a temple in another state. So they would be gone. Then he had these classes that were midwife classes, okay? And he would lead the women in genital examinations, and he would also place their mouth on another's private area to give CPR to the unborn child. It says he would ask how many of the sisters would mind having the king's seed. He's not going to be punished for it, and then they do, and he's not. And so the followers are believing that they're on this like righteous mission, and anyone who gets in their path is going to be like taken down, and God is on their side. And he hasn't made himself God yet. That's coming though. The next year after this is when the whole Yahweh ben Yahweh character comes to be. And there's lots of characters that came before, which I'll get into. But he basically has this moment where he tells them, he was calling himself Yeshua for a while. And so he's got like 300 people around him, and he's saying like, who am I? Who am I? And then like, I guess one of them says, Yahweh, Yahweh ben Yahweh, God, the Son of God, like God. Hey, Yahweh, Yahweh.
Yahweh. Yahweh, Yahweh. Yahweh, Yahweh. Yahweh, Yahweh. Yahweh, Yahweh.
And then like they're all screaming and oh my God and crying and wailing. And basically he tells them like, I am the Messiah. Like now they're straight up believing he's God.
And then he told us that I am the only God that you're ever going to see. You looking at God.
So what do they want to do for God? Apparently in 1984, they wanted to do a human sacrifice for God. Now this was a homeless guy. His name was Attilio Sikala. He was found outside of the cult's temple in Newark. This happened a few days before Yahweh was meant to visit that particular temple in Newark. And according to prosecutors, the cult members did this as a sacrifice, like for their God, like in Oklahoma.
You are in for tough time, rough going. Don't you wonder if you're going to be mistreated. You're going to be mistreated until you return to your God. See, Yahweh gave white folks the right to beat you until you come home.
So he went to a segregated public school. Then he served in the Air Force. Then he earned a psychology degree. And they say he studied law at the University of Oklahoma, but he didn't get a degree. He did, however, get a master's degree in economics from Atlanta University. When he was in Atlanta University, the teachers considered him to be brilliant. Like they found him to be really smart and really charming. That is when his first persona came to be, and he started preaching Christianity, and he called himself Father Michael. He then really gets into civil rights, and at first he was kind of doing the sit-ins and the peaceful marches and stuff, but then he kind of got disillusioned with Martin Luther King, and it's said that he called him a dead dog preacher. Okay. After all that, he decides to go to Chicago and he joins the Nation of Islam, and he has a new name now. Instead of Father Michael, he's Hulan Shah.
The brothers attacked them, but upon talking with the brothers, we found that they had been viciously set upon and attacked and beaten by the police department here. And then they were then sent to the hospital, greatest hospital, and being brought back, they were beat again viciously and inhumanly, kicked about the body, kicked in the ribs, and beaten about the head in the elevator up to the top floor and back. Then they were put into their individual cell.
What plan of action will you take against the police department?
Well, we have lodged a formal complaint with the FBI department and also the Department of Justice, Washington, D.C. And we expect to be in court with our attorneys. We are legally represented by an attorney.
Is he a member of the Muslim group here in Atlanta?
All black people are Muslims.
Is he a card-carrying Muslim?
We don't carry cards.
Then after that fizzled out, and he moved to Orlando, and he started calling himself Brother Love. And then it wasn't until 1976 when he goes to Miami. So this is when he calls himself Brother Moses, and he starts the Nation of Yahweh. He also takes this woman with him who her real name is Linda Murphy Gaines. He met her in Orlando, but she would take the name Judith Israel, and that's what all his followers would take, the last name Israel. It would be like a biblical name, Israel. Then something happened in Miami. It was 1979, and a guy named Arthur McDuffie, he was an insurance agent, and he got chased by police. He was riding a motorcycle after running a red light, and they beat him. The officers get acquitted, and there's riots that go on. So in the context of this racial tension that's going on in Miami, here comes Brother Moses preaching like the government and the structure as it is, because it's oppressive and we need to do our own thing. He ends up getting lots of followers because of this quickly in Miami. This is when the whole thing happens where he declares himself the new Messiah, that he is Yahweh. Like I said, according to the Miami Herald, at one point they estimated his real estate holdings and fortune of the Nation of Yahweh at $100 million. He owned a huge temple, 4-story apartment building, restaurants, stores, houses, hotels in Miami and in Atlanta, as well as hundreds of white cars. They had Cadillacs and Lincolns, and they had vans, buses, and 18-wheeler trucks.
The Yahweh's portfolio of business holdings is now believed to total in the millions of dollars. In fact, here in front of the Temple of Love are about a half a dozen white Lincolns and Cadillacs, part of the federal investigation.
I'm Jim Kallstrom. former head of the FBI's New York office. It would take a massive operation involving 120 agents in 7 cities to bring down a deranged fanatic who believed he was God.
They became scared and they just left.
Detective King needed to learn more about the Yahweh organization. He and his partner visited its Miami temple.
We tried interviewing people and we really got nowhere. Every time we spoke to somebody, it was praise Yahweh or, see the public information office at the temple.
Suspecting he knew more, investigators began surveillance on the Yahweh enterprise.
The surveillance was sort of a constant rolling type surveillance where you drive by, write down some tag numbers, but to actually sit off and watch the place, it was impossible because at all times there were guards standing outside the temple watching the front door.
Detectives did learn that the Yahweh organization was extensive. In Florida and in 13 other states, the Yahwehs owned real estate, buses, and vehicles that the leader claimed totaled nearly $50 million. Some said membership topped 12,000 in Florida alone. Since the Yahweh organization spanned several states, the FBI began investigating. Supervisory Special Agent Herbert Cousins was assigned as case agent. He believed the organization demonstrated elements of domestic terrorism.
Domestic terrorism investigations are conducted in a group of individuals who engage in criminal activities to further their social or political goal.
To his most avid followers, Yahweh ben Yahweh was the Messiah, and everything they had belonged to him, including their labor. To raise revenue, the Yahwehs manufactured and packaged their own hair care products, tonics, beverages, t-shirts, wine, and more. The merchandise was shipped to his network of temples all over the country. Yahweh required his members to reach certain income goals for their temple by selling these wares. It continued to prosper and spread. Weeks later, police in Opelika, a suburb of Miami, responded to emergency calls from residents of an apartment complex.
It was an apartment complex that had recently been taken under siege, for lack of a better term, by the Yahwehs.
Tenants who lived there called it the Dirt Road Apartments. A low-income housing project. Some local residents considered it an eyesore. Many were delighted when the Yahweh leader Hulon Mitchell bought the property. Dirt Road residents were not.
Unfortunately for the residents, their idea of taking the building over was to actually move the residents out. And sometimes, according to the residents, that was by force.
The Yahweh's strong-arm eviction efforts made the TV news. One resident, Anthony Brown, was particularly outspoken.
I'm gonna stay here until I get eviction notice. I don't care what they say. I do, because they ain't going in. Just simple as that.
He cursed the Yahweh's leader, Hulon Mitchell.
Stand around and look.
Investigators knew that Mitchell didn't tolerate public criticism. Witnesses told police that tensions at the apartments continued after night fell. As Miami investigators tried to close in on Yahweh leader Hulon Mitchell, they arrested a man suspected of being one of Mitchell's enforcers. Robert Rozier sat behind bars facing 4 capital murder charges. Investigators hoped Rozier would turn on the leader. The Yahwehs and their organization became the target of public scrutiny. Hulon Mitchell, their leader, refused to meet the press. He stayed hidden behind his followers, who passed out pamphlets explaining that Rozier had been framed. The bad publicity could destroy all that Mitchell had built. He hired a high-priced attorney and public relations expert. It was Mitchell's first step in creating a new image for his organization.
Quickly as possible.
What the hell do you want? I'm here to help you.
Mitchell offered the attorney's legal help to Rozier.
Make this mess go away.
Rozier quickly realized that the attorney was there to protect the interests of Hulon Mitchell, not Rozier's.
Just talk to me.
But Rozier still refused to turn on the leader of the Yahwehs. Lieutenant Rex Remley recalls that the media attention prompted other insiders to talk. Rozier had no one left to protect but himself. He decided to begin working with the FBI. It was the break agents were hoping for. Just after his transfer to federal prison, Rozier told investigators that he knew of at least 20 murders across the country that had been ordered by the Yahweh leader Hulon Mitchell. To agents, it was clear that Mitchell hid behind organized religion as a front for organized crime.
Why?
Rozier also explained why he and another man killed Anthony Brown and Rudy Broussard at the apartments in Opelika. For Special Agent Herbert Cousins, it confirmed what he already suspected. Hulon Mitchell fought the investigation by continuing to polish his public image.
I would like everybody to give a nice warm welcome.
He continued to turn distressed buildings into gleaming properties.
The opening of the store.
As Yahweh ben Yahweh, he toned down his anti-white message and made large contributions to popular causes.
I think it'll make the area a better place. Watching Yahweh become stronger and stronger and watching him become more and more accepted by the community, I, as well as all of the investigators, felt he had to be stopped.
Hulon Mitchell became a bigger-than-life public figure, enjoying all the legitimacy money could buy. He seemed unstoppable. After almost a decade of investigation, the FBI still lacked enough evidence to arrest self-proclaimed Messiah, Hulon Mitchell. On November 6, 1990, Hulon Mitchell arrived at the Monteleone Hotel in New Orleans. The FBI was already there.
The meeting went well.
To track Mitchell's movements, undercover agents were posted on every floor.
Coming up now. They're coming up.
Agents in the hotel called Mitchell's room.
The first instruction was that he instruct his bodyguard to turn himself into the agents who were waiting down the hall.
Here comes the bodyguard.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let me see your hand.
Finally, their main suspect emerged.
Hands on your head. You're on your knees.
They sent word to Miami.
You're under arrest.
Mitchell was captured.
Commit murder.
Go. You gotta go.
The other teams swarmed in, arresting the criminal members of Mitchell's temple.
Get down! Down! Get out of here!
In a matter of minutes, scores of agents mobilized to capture a dozen suspects across hundreds of miles.
No one was hurt. We accomplished our
Delray Beach.
Shame! It isn't working. We're black. Look, the skin color, same as mine. Why? Why did y'all do it? Is it working now? Are you happy?
The Yahweh's leader, who claims to be the son of God, Yahweh ben Yahweh, was arrested by the FBI in New Orleans, where he was on a speaking tour.
I can speak a little Japanese. Want to hear me say something? How many want to hear me speak a little Japanese right quick? Okay. All right. Toyota, Nissan, Sony, Mitsubishi.
On a beautiful wishers to the parade route to cheer on Yahweh ben Yahweh ben Yahweh in the joyous event. This year, the motorcade was accompanied by 4 uniformed motorcycle patrol officers from the Sweetwater Police Department to stop traffic along the way. The use of helicopters in some neighborhoods near the Miami International Airport corridor is prohibited by the FAA. Yahweh Ben Yahweh Ben Yahweh announced that he would bring in his own air support. As the motorcade sped down I-95, and much to the amazement of the participants, 4 unidentified flying objects appeared in the sky. The objects, larger than any known aircraft, took up positions in each cardinal direction, as if to sanctify the auspicious occasion. This immediately triggered reports to the Mutual Unidentified Flying Object Network, which generated an official report. The disposition of case number 48269 remains unresolved to this day. Ben Yahweh does not merely call for spaceships. He creates them.
Have you ever purged? Did you blame on him? I heard you ran on him. You ain't stand on him. You ain't never purged. Oh, you put 10 on him. You ain't spend on him. You ain't get rid of him. Have you ever purged?
Relax. This is the Bloggers Purge Show. Subscribe and hit that like button, commencing at the siren. Any and all trolls including cloud chasers will have no immunity for 12 hours until the purge concludes. Welcome to the Bloggers Purge Show.
We be coming like the Purge, nigga. Tweaking the streets in your ass, get left on that curve, nigga. Yeah, this is my boy.
Shout out to the Bloggers Purge Show. Yeah, I just looked up your channel. I see you over there doing your thing. So thanks for stopping by. Donnie's back.
Shout out to the Bloggers Purge, nigga. Hit the link, nigga.
On 50.
Donate to the Bloggers Purge.
Well, thank you, Bloggers Purge.
Thank you, the Bloggers Purge.
The Bloggers Purge was happening. What's up with blood?
Thank you, Blogger.
Have you ever purged? Did you blame on him? I heard you ran on him. You ain't stand on him. You ain't never purged.
Took over the...
Now that story, Michael.
Peter, they just took over the Sun City Motel here in Sunny Isles today, so there's not been a lot of community reaction just yet, but it's safe to say in this heavily elderly Jewish area, the Yahwehs will prove to be a unique presence. Yahweh Ben Yahweh stopped in late this afternoon to see what he just paid $2 million for. The Sun City Hotel is now one of 5 the Yahwehs own in Dade, part of a $20 million property portfolio. Where does the money come from?
Well, the money comes from...
Have you ever purged? Did you blame on him? I heard you ran on him. You ain't stand on him. You ain't never purged. Oh, you put 10 on him. You ain't spend on him. You ain't get rid of him. Have you ever purged? You said you up something. Well, did you dump something? Did you snub something? You ain't never